What if the people shaping your life are not the loud enemies you can spot in a second, but the quiet ones who learned how to read you before you learned how to read yourself? What if the reason you keep feeling dismissed, manipulated, drained, or subtly cornered has nothing to do with bad luck and everything to do with the small moments when you hand people your patterns without realizing it? Most control does not begin with force. It begins with access. Access to your reactions. Access to your fears. Access to the timing of your emotions. Access to the places where your self-respect still shakes under pressure. And the most dangerous part is this: the people using that access do not always look evil. Sometimes they look helpful. Sometimes they look charming. Sometimes they look like friends, managers, partners, even family. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will see the hidden mistakes that quietly surrender your power, the social illusions that keep good people exposed in a performative world, and the final mistake almost nobody notices until they have already built a life around someone else's influence. Welcome back to StoicCraft, where we do not use Stoicism as decoration or empty inspiration. We use it as armor, as clarity, and as a way to move through a noisy world without becoming owned by it. Today we are talking about one of the most practical and uncomfortable truths in modern life. People do not need to overpower you if they can simply study you, predict you, and quietly guide your behavior from the shadows. That is where Stoic discipline becomes more than philosophy. It becomes protection. And to make this sharper, we are also going to borrow a harder lens, the unsentimental realism many people associate with Machiavellian thinking. Not to glorify cruelty, but to expose a fact about social life most people are raised to ignore: the world is often less sincere than it appears. Many interactions are performances. Many smiles are strategic. Many questions are not curiosity, but information gathering. Many displays of care are really tests of access. If you move through that world naively, you will keep calling it bad luck. If you move through it awake, you begin to understand why restraint, timing, and self-command are not coldness. They are survival. In this script, we will move through the silent mistakes that make people controllable. We will talk about emotional leakage, over-explaining, premature honesty, the need to be understood, the fantasy of fairness, and the deeper danger of letting other people organize your inner world. I want to do this in a way that feels less like a lecture and more like a conversation with someone who has learned some of these lessons the hard way. Because for many people in their 30s, 40s, and beyond, the pain is not theoretical anymore. You have already lived enough to know that not every wound comes from open attack. Some of the deepest ones come from the moment you realize someone studied your softness better than you did. Section 1, the first mistake: showing your inner weather to people who only wanted the forecast. Most people think honesty automatically creates closeness. They believe that if they speak openly about what they feel, others will respond with the same sincerity. It sounds noble. It sounds mature. It sounds emotionally healthy. But in real life, timing changes everything. There is a difference between truth that has been processed and emotion that is still flooding the room. There is a difference between sharing wisdom and leaking instability. And the world is more skilled at reading that difference than most people want to admit. Think about a common scene. You have had a rough week. Something at work went sideways. A colleague dismissed your idea in a meeting. A manager shifted expectations without warning. You have not fully understood why it bothered you so much, but it did. The frustration sits in your chest all day. Then someone asks, "Are you okay?" and suddenly the whole thing comes out. You explain too much. You give context nobody asked for. You keep talking because you can feel you are not landing the point the way you want. And in the moment, it feels like relief. But what just happened? Did you communicate strength? Or did you reveal your current level of internal disorganization? This is where Stoicism cuts deeper than self-help language. The Stoics never taught emotional numbness, but they did teach governance of the inner world. Marcus Aurelius wrote again and again about not being dragged around by first reactions. Epictetus reminded us that events themselves do not rule us, our judgments about them do. That is not abstract wisdom. It is a tactical principle. When you reveal your inner weather before you understand it yourself, other people do not simply hear your words. They begin mapping your triggers. They notice what destabilizes you, how quickly you react, what kind of reassurance you crave, and how much pressure it takes before you lose precision. In a healthier world, maybe this would not matter. But we do not live in a world built only on healthy motives. We live in one where people constantly form conclusions from fragments. They watch tone, pacing, over-explanation, facial tension, repeated phrases. Even well-intentioned people do this unconsciously. More calculating people do it on purpose. They learn where your confidence thins. They learn what to bring up when they want leverage. They learn how to soften you, hurry you, guilt you, impress you, or make you second-guess yourself. The tragedy is that many people call this being real, when often it is simply becoming readable too soon. I learned this lesson in a painfully ordinary way. Not through some dramatic betrayal, but through repeated small interactions where I kept leaving conversations feeling emptier than when I entered them. I would speak while still emotionally hot, believing I was being transparent. But later, I could hear it. I was not communicating clarity. I was asking for regulation through the listener. I was outsourcing steadiness. And once I noticed that, I noticed something else. The people around me did not always respond to the substance of what I said. They responded to the weakness inside the delivery. They responded to uncertainty more than truth. That is why restraint matters. Not because you should become secretive for the sake of image, but because what is unprocessed should first be handled in private. Journal it. Walk with it. Sit with it. Let the emotional static settle until you can distinguish what actually happened from what it touched inside you. Once insight arrives, then speak. Because when a lesson comes out of reflection, it sounds different. It carries weight. It does not beg to be validated. It does not pull others into your storm. It invites them into your perspective. In a hyper-performative society, this discipline becomes even more important. Today people are rewarded for emotional immediacy. Oversharing is marketed as courage. Public vulnerability is sometimes confused with depth. But not every open window should remain open. Some windows let light in. Others let people study the floor plan. And if you want to stop being controlled, the first step is simple. Stop turning your unsettled feelings into public material before you have translated them into understanding. Section 2, the second mistake, over-explaining because you fear being misunderstood. There is a hidden desperation inside over-explaining. On the surface, it looks polite, responsible, mature. It sounds like, I just want to make sure nobody gets the wrong idea. But beneath that sentence there is often a quieter one, please do not think badly of me. And once that fear enters your speech, your authority starts dissolving in real time. You see this everywhere. Someone says no, then adds 3 minutes of justification. Someone makes a decision, then immediately builds a courtroom defense around it. Someone gets questioned lightly and responds as if they are already on trial. The words keep coming. More context. More detail. More emotional evidence. More reasons. more clarifications. They are trying to secure understanding, but what they often communicate is insecurity. Why? Because calm people do not chase permission for every boundary they set. This is one of the most common ways adults surrender power without noticing. A child has to explain because their authority is conditional. A mature person understands that not every choice needs a defense. Yet many intelligent, kind, capable people still live as if their legitimacy depends on being interpreted generously by everyone around them. That is a terrible deal. Because once your peace depends on universal understanding, anyone can control you simply by withholding it. This shows up sharply in workplaces. You tell a manager you cannot take on another urgent task, but instead of stating it clearly, you flood the moment with explanations about your schedule, your intentions, your loyalty, your workload, your desire to help, your fear of seeming difficult. And what have you done? You have taught them that your boundary can be softened by making you feel guilty. You have revealed that your no is not anchored. It is negotiable if enough pressure is applied. The more words you use to prove your reasonableness, the more someone skilled in power games understands that your real driver is not clarity, it is approval. Seneca warned about the exhausting life of trying to live in the opinions of others. That pressure is still alive today, maybe more than ever. Social media trained people to pre-defend themselves before anyone even objected. Corporate culture trained people to present every preference as a collaborative proposal rather than a decision. Relationship dysfunction trained people to think boundaries are selfish unless beautifully explained. So now many people speak as if they are permanently on a stage, trying to control every interpretation before it can form. But here is the darker social truth: over-explanation gives manipulators material. The more you talk, the more they learn. They hear what you are afraid of being called. They notice which accusations terrify you. They discover the language that makes you overfunction. If they want compliance later, they only need to reach for the right label. Difficult, cold, unfair, unhelpful, selfish. Suddenly you are back in explanation mode, trying to clean up an image they now know how to threaten. A Stoic approach is not rude or detached. It is disciplined. It understands that a clear sentence, delivered calmly, carries more power than a paragraph built from anxiety. I can't commit to that. That doesn't work for me. I've decided to handle it differently. I'm not discussing that right now. Those sentences are not aggressive. They are adult. They do not attempt to control the other person's perception. They simply refuse to surrender self-command in order to manage it. I remember the first time I felt the full difference between these two modes. I said no to something I normally would have dressed in layers of apology. And then I stopped. No extra defense. No softening paragraph. No attempt to appear endlessly agreeable. The silence after my sentence felt almost illegal. Part of me wanted to jump in and make it nicer, warmer, easier for them. But underneath that urge was an old fear: if I am not endlessly explainable, maybe I will be rejected. That moment taught me something important. Often the discomfort is not about the other person. It is about withdrawing from a role you used to perform for safety. And that is what makes this so emotional for many people. Over-explaining is not just a communication habit. It is often a survival strategy left over from environments where being misread had consequences. Maybe you grew up around volatility. Maybe you learned to manage people's emotions before your own. Maybe you had to become hyper-clear to avoid conflict. If so, this is not a place for self-judgment. It is a place for self-respect. You are not weak for having learned that pattern. But you do need to see that if the pattern remains unconscious, it becomes a doorway through which control walks in quietly. Section 3, the third mistake, telling people too early what matters most to you. What you desire is one of the easiest ways for others to guide your behavior. What you fear losing is even easier. That is why one of the most underrated forms of self-protection is guarding what matters to you until trust and context have earned access. This does not mean becoming cold or paranoid. It means understanding a blunt social reality. Once people know what you desperately want, they can start shaping your choices through the promise of it. Once they know what you are terrified of losing, they can start managing you through the threat of it. You do not need a villain for this to happen. Ordinary people do it too. Employers do it with recognition. Romantic partners do it with affection. Family members do it with belonging. Social circles do it with status. Suddenly your behavior is no longer organized by principle, but by the hope of reward or the fear of withdrawal. Look at how quickly this begins in everyday life. You meet someone new and, wanting connection, you reveal too much too fast. You tell them your biggest dream, your old wound, your deep insecurity, your fear of being abandoned, your need to finally be seen. They nod, they empathize, they mirror you. It feels intimate. But intimacy without earned trust is often just accelerated exposure. The bond feels deep because your nervous system equates disclosure with closeness. But closeness is not built by access alone. It is built by tested character. The Stoics were deeply concerned with inner independence. Not because they rejected attachment, but because they knew that the person who cannot stand inside themselves becomes easier to govern from the outside. If your need for validation, reassurance, affection, success, or belonging is too visible, social reality starts bending around it. Others do not even need to attack you directly. They only need to imply that what you want may be granted or withheld. That is enough to move many people like strings. There is a quietly Machiavellian dimension to this that people hate admitting. Some individuals do not build relationships primarily through truth. They build them through leverage. They test what you crave, then decide whether to feed it, delay it, or ration it. They are not always dramatic or obvious. Some are elegant. Some are patient. Some are expert listeners. The more sincere you are, the easier it is to imagine they are sincere too. But listening is not proof of integrity. Sometimes it is simply information harvesting with a warm face. This becomes devastating in work culture. Imagine you reveal how badly you want advancement, recognition, or stability. A manipulative superior does not need to deny you those things outright. They can keep you working harder through vague future promises, subtle praise, strategic ambiguity. They can dangle possibility just close enough to keep you compliant. Your hunger does the rest. Or in relationships, maybe you reveal how terrified you are of being left. The wrong person now understands that distance, inconsistency, and emotional withholding will have outsized power over you. They do not need to communicate clearly. Your fear will fill in the gaps and keep you chasing. I am not saying never reveal what matters to you. I am saying reveal it with discernment. Let people prove they know how to hold information without converting it into influence. Let consistency speak before intimacy does. Let time expose motive. One of the most adult shifts a person can make is moving from immediate disclosure to calibrated access. Not everyone deserves the raw material of your ambitions, your grief, your deepest needs, or the unfinished parts of your identity. Some people should meet your character long before they meet your inner map. Ask yourself something honest. How many times have you confused the relief of being heard with the safety of being held well? Those are not the same thing. Being heard can happen in an hour. Being safe with someone may take much longer. And if you want to stop being controlled, you have to stop giving people the exact blueprint of your motivations before they have demonstrated what kind of architect they are. Section 4, the fourth mistake, assuming good intentions are shared by everyone. This might be the hardest part for sincere people to accept. Many adults still move through life with an invisible belief that fairness is the default language of human interaction. They assume honesty will be met with honesty, goodwill with goodwill, respect with respect, effort with reciprocity. It is understandable. Most decent people project their own values outward. They assume others are operating from roughly the same moral field. But that assumption creates blindness. And blindness creates exposure. Machiavelli's cold contribution to political and social thought was not that people are monsters. It was that power often reveals motive more clearly than ideals do. People do not always act from what they say they believe. They act from interest, fear, ambition, status, convenience, ego, insecurity, appetite, resentment. Once you really absorb that, not in a cynical way but in a sober one, your entire social reading changes. You stop being shocked by behavior that was predictable all along. You stop handing out trust based on your values alone. You stop confusing your code with the rules of the room. The Stoic response to this is not paranoia. It is clarity without bitterness. The Stoic does not need the world to be pure in order to remain principled. That is a huge difference. A naive person becomes crushed when others act below their moral expectations. A disciplined person notices reality, accepts it without theatrics, and adjusts conduct accordingly. They do not surrender ethics, but they stop building their decisions on fantasies. This matters in practical ways. Think about the colleague who smiles, praises you publicly, then subtly positions themselves above you when decisions are being made. Think about the friend who appears supportive until your progress starts reminding them of their own stagnation. Think about the relative who claims to just be honest, but whose honesty somehow always arrives in a way that weakens your confidence rather than strengthens your discernment. These people often hide behind socially acceptable language. They do not call their behavior envy, insecurity, control, or opportunism. They call it concern. They call it realism. They call it being straightforward. If you are addicted to seeing the best in everyone, you will miss the pattern. I say this carefully, because many people watching have been hurt precisely because they are decent. They gave the benefit of the doubt too long. They kept explaining away what they could feel. They ignored the chill in the room because the words on the surface sounded fine. They called themselves compassionate when sometimes what they were really being was avoidant. They did not want to face that someone close to them was operating from competition, resentment, or quiet manipulation. It felt easier to doubt themselves than revise the story of the relationship. But one of the most healing forms of maturity is this: you stop needing reality to be prettier than it is in order to function. You stop saying, "Surely they didn't mean it that way," when your nervous system has already collected the evidence. You stop offering unlimited interpretive charity to people who repeatedly benefit from your denial. You still remain humane. You still refuse to become cruel. But you also stop participating in your own erasure by calling it kindness. Marcus Aurelius spoke often about meeting people as they are, not as you wish them to be. That is one of the most emotionally expensive lessons in adult life. To really see someone as they are may require grieving the version of them you hoped for. It may require letting go of a role, a relationship, a dynamic, a work identity, even an old image of yourself as the one who could keep everything harmonious if you just tried hard enough. But once you stop assuming shared goodwill, your choices become quieter and stronger. You prepare better. You disclose less. You observe more. And you stop feeling personally betrayed every time human nature behaves like human nature. Section 5, the fifth mistake, reacting too fast and letting others set your tempo. Control is not only about information. It is about pace. Whoever controls the tempo of an interaction often controls the emotional architecture of it. If someone can hurry you, provoke you, corner you into instant response, or make you feel that silence itself is dangerous, they already have an advantage. Fast reactions expose more than careful ones. They show pressure points before wisdom has time to arrive. This is one reason modern life makes people easier to manipulate. Everything moves quickly. Messages demand immediate replies. Workplace culture rewards availability over depth. Social media conditions people to speak before thinking and perform before understanding. In that environment, slowness starts to feel suspicious, even guilty. But in reality, measured pace is one of the strongest forms of self-protection available to you. Picture a conflict at work. Someone sends a pointed email late in the day, copying others in a way that feels slightly theatrical. Your body reacts instantly. Heat. Tightness. Urgency. The temptation is to reply fast, to correct the record, to defend your competence, to reassert control before perception hardens. But a rushed response written under emotional pressure rarely protects you. More often, it exposes you. Tone gets sharper. Words become less precise. Motive starts leaking into phrasing. Even if your argument is technically correct, your loss of composure becomes part of what people read. The disciplined alternative is not passivity. It is recovery of timing. Pause. Breathe. Separate the event from your first interpretation of it. Ask, what actually needs to be answered here, and what part of me simply wants relief? That question alone can save people from countless self-sabotaging reactions. Often the most dangerous sentence in conflict is the one written for emotional discharge rather than strategic clarity. There is something almost surgical about the Stoic commitment to delay judgment. Not forever. Just long enough to stop becoming a puppet of first emotion. Epictetus would say that between stimulus and response lies the real arena of freedom. If that sounds familiar, it is because timeless wisdom keeps rediscovering the same truth: your power lives in the gap. The problem is that many people experience the gap as unbearable because they were trained to soothe tension immediately. That is why manipulative people love urgency. Urgency bypasses thought. The social version of Machiavellian realism teaches something similarly sharp: if you want influence, do not show your whole position under pressure. Let others reveal themselves first. Let them show the quality of their patience, their assumptions, their confidence, their insecurity. People rushing you are often telling you something important. Maybe they need your quick compliance. Maybe they need you emotionally activated. Maybe they benefit from you answering before you have fully regained center. You learn a lot from who resents your pause. I have seen this in personal relationships too. Someone asks a loaded question, but the real test is not the content of your answer. It is whether you can stay grounded while answering. If you scramble, they learn you are manageable through pressure. If you react sharply, they learn how to bait you. If you overcorrect, they learn how to send you chasing repair. But if you breathe, think, and respond from center rather than panic, the whole dynamic shifts. Suddenly they have less emotional rope to pull. So one of the simplest practices I can offer is this: refuse immediate emotional labor on demand. Not every text requires a fast reply. Not every accusation deserves instant access to your nervous system. Not every uncomfortable silence needs to be filled. Reclaiming tempo is reclaiming sovereignty. The person who can slow an interaction without collapsing into guilt or fear becomes much harder to steer. Section 6, the sixth mistake, needing to be seen as good more than you need to be free. This mistake is especially dangerous because it hides inside virtue. Many people are not controlled through greed, vanity, or open weakness. They are controlled through their identity as a good person. They want to be fair, patient, understanding, helpful, emotionally intelligent. They do not want to disappoint people. They do not want to be harsh. They do not want to seem selfish. So they keep saying yes long after their inner life has said no. On the surface, this looks admirable. But in practice, it often creates one of the easiest personalities to exploit, the person whose self-image depends on being consistently kind, reasonable, and accommodating. Once others recognize that image, they can activate it. They do not need to threaten you. They only need to make you feel that refusing them would contradict who you believe yourself to be. This is why guilt is such a powerful social instrument. It turns your own values against you. Suddenly boundaries feel immoral. Distance feels cruel. Discernment feels judgmental. Silence feels mean. You start betraying your deeper needs in order to remain loyal to a role. The role may look beautiful from the outside. But inside it, resentment slowly accumulates, fatigue deepens, self-trust erodes, and eventually you realize something heartbreaking: you have been admired for your usefulness more than known for your truth. Stoicism offers a powerful correction here. Virtue is not people-pleasing. Wisdom is not endless accommodation. Justice does not mean surrendering yourself so others remain comfortable. Temperance does not mean muting your reality to preserve someone else's narrative of you. A stoic life is not built on being liked. It is built on being aligned. That alignment may at times look gentle and generous. But it can also look firm, quiet, and immovable. I think many adults reach a point where this becomes painfully clear. They notice that being the stable one in every room has turned them into emotional infrastructure for other people. They absorb tension. They smooth conflict. They make everyone else comfortable. They carry more than their share. And because they do it well, more gets placed on them. One day they wake up exhausted, privately angry, and strangely unseen. Not because nobody appreciates them, but because almost nobody has encountered them outside the function they provide. There is a surreal cruelty in social life when this happens. The very qualities that make you admirable can become the handles through which others carry you where they want. Your empathy becomes access. Your reliability becomes obligation. Your patience becomes permission. Your reluctance to disappoint becomes a leash disguised as respectability. That is why self-knowledge matters so much. If you do not know the shadow side of your strengths, others will eventually use those strengths to direct you. A more grounded question is not, how do I remain good in everyone's eyes? It is, how do I remain truthful without becoming hard? That question changes everything. It frees you from performance morality and brings you back to lived integrity. Sometimes the most ethical thing you can do is disappoint the version of you that was trained to earn safety through compliance. Sometimes the kindest thing is a clean boundary. Sometimes the strongest thing is to let someone misread you rather than abandon yourself trying to fix it. Section 7, the seventh mistake: confusing attention, validation, and advice with real guidance. Not everyone who notices your struggle is equipped to guide you through it. Not everyone who gives advice has earned the right to shape your thinking. Not everyone who praises you sees you clearly. And not everyone who criticizes you understands you deeply enough to correct you. One of the fastest ways to become controllable is to let too many outside voices organize your internal compass. This is especially hard in an age of endless commentary. Today, everybody has an opinion about how you should work, heal, parent, lead, speak, build, age, love, grieve, earn, and grow. The noise is constant. And if your inner authority is not developed, you become porous. Every strong opinion enters. Every suggestion creates doubt. Every criticism lingers longer than it should. Every compliment starts functioning like a drug. You do not make decisions from grounded principle. You make them from the shifting weather of other people's responses. The ancient Stoics would have recognized this as a crisis of self-rule. They cared deeply about whose judgments we allow into the citadel of the mind. Not every voice deserves equal access. Some voices are informed. Some are immature. Some are projecting. Some are wounded. Some are envious. Some simply need your uncertainty because it makes them feel more central. A person with weak inner governance becomes a public square. Everyone passes through. Everyone leaves traces. Eventually they cannot tell which thoughts are theirs anymore. I have felt this most intensely in times of transition, moments when life was changing, when certainty was thin, when I was still becoming clear. Those are the seasons when advice feels seductive, because uncertainty is uncomfortable. You want someone to tell you what to do so you can stop carrying the tension of not knowing. But if you are not careful, you start collecting opinions not because they are wise, but because they temporarily reduce anxiety. That relief feels like clarity, but it is not. It is borrowed certainty. And borrowed certainty is dangerous. Because the moment the external voice changes, your center shifts with it. Suddenly you are not living your life, you are adjusting to the strongest nearby narrative. The bolder the voice, the more authority it seems to have. Yet boldness and wisdom are not the same. Confidence and character are not the same. Advice that sounds sharp can still be shallow. Validation that feels warm can still be manipulative. Criticism that feels intelligent can still be the disguised resentment of someone uncomfortable with your direction. There is also a strategic layer to this. Some people keep others psychologically dependent by becoming the interpreter of their reality. They tell you what your behavior means, what your feelings mean, what your future means, what your worth means. They position themselves as the one who really understands you. Over time, you consult them more than yourself. That may look like closeness. Sometimes it is control wearing the clothes of insight. A Stoic response is not isolation. It is filtration. You still seek counsel. You still learn. You still listen. But you do so from an anchored self, not a starving self. You ask, does this voice make me clearer or just more dependent? Does this advice sharpen my agency or replace it? Does this person respect my responsibility to think, or do they quietly enjoy my uncertainty? Those questions matter, because one of the most silent forms of control is getting you to doubt your own perception so consistently that you begin outsourcing your entire life to people who never planned to carry it well. Section 8, the eighth mistake. Making your pain your identity instead of your teacher. Pain can deepen a person, but it can also freeze them in a role. One of the strangest traps adults fall into is becoming so identified with what hurt them that they start organizing relationships, choices, and self-perception around old injury. The wound becomes a lens through which everything is interpreted. And once that happens, people do not need to control you directly. They only need to touch the wound and watch your identity react. This is why unresolved pain is socially dangerous. Not because it makes you broken, but because it makes parts of you programmable. If abandonment is your deepest wound, inconsistency will control you. If humiliation is your deepest wound, disrespect will control you. If invisibility is your deepest wound, attention will control you. If failure is your deepest wound, status will control you. The specific mechanism changes, but the structure remains the same. Whatever holds your unexamined emotional charge becomes a place where outside forces can move you more easily than reason can. The Stoics were not strangers to suffering. They understood loss, uncertainty, illness, exile, and the instability of public life. But they insisted that pain must be metabolized into character, not merely displayed as identity. The modern world often encourages the opposite. It invites people to build permanent self-descriptions out of temporary or even long-term pain. It rewards the performance of woundedness. It gives social recognition to collapse, but not always equal support for disciplined recovery. And the longer pain remains a banner rather than a lesson, the easier it becomes for others to predict and pull. I want to be careful here. This is not a call to suppress grief or pretend strength. Some of the most important work a person can do is finally feel what they once had to survive too quickly. But there is a difference between honoring pain and becoming loyal to it. There is a difference between understanding your story and treating your story like a prison sentence. The world will happily keep you in a category if that category makes you easier to understand, market to, manage, or excuse. Your task is not to deny what happened. Your task is to refuse becoming reducible to it. In my own life, some of the biggest shifts happened when I stopped asking, "Why am I like this?" and started asking, "What is this pain training me to notice, and where is it still ruling me without permission?" That second question is less dramatic, but far more liberating. It moves you from self-narration to self-observation. It invites responsibility without shame. It lets the wound become information instead of destiny. And once you do that, something powerful happens. You begin noticing when a person, place, or dynamic is not actually strong, but merely familiar to your wound. That changes everything. You stop calling emotional chaos chemistry. You stop calling inconsistency mystery. You stop calling your own triggered state intuition. You begin distinguishing between what feels intense and what is actually true. That discernment is a massive step out of control. Section 9, the final mistake, forgetting that power starts with self-respect, not strategy. After all this talk about exposure, perception, timing, boundaries, and social realism, it is possible to make one more mistake, believing the answer is just becoming more strategic. Strategy helps. Awareness helps. But underneath all tactics there has to be something sturdier. If your self-respect is weak, every technique will eventually crack under pressure. Because the truth is, most people are not controlled only because others are manipulative. They are controlled because, somewhere inside, they still believe access must be earned through pleasing, proving, rescuing, performing, or enduring. They still believe love must be maintained through self-betrayal. They still believe disagreement threatens belonging. They still believe authority belongs to others by default. And until those beliefs are challenged, even the best communication habits will remain surface level. Self-respect is not loud. It does not need dramatic speeches. It does not announce itself every 5 minutes. Often it shows up in very quiet ways. In what you do not explain. In what you no longer chase. In what you do not tolerate twice. In what you stop romanticizing. In how long you are willing to sit alone rather than return to a dynamic that shrinks you. In how willing you are to let an illusion die. in whether you trust your own clear perception when it costs you comfort. This is where Stoicism becomes deeply personal. Not a performance of hardness, but a practice of inner order. A person grounded in self-respect does not need to dominate rooms. They do not need to win every social encounter. They do not need everyone to agree with them. They simply stop participating in arrangements that require them to fracture internally. Their dignity becomes less negotiable. Their speech becomes cleaner. Their pace becomes calmer. Their relationships become more selective. Their emotions become more private until transformed into language that serves truth rather than leakage. And yes, there is a Machiavellian lesson hiding here too, one worth understanding without becoming corrupted by it. People often treat you according to the standards you quietly enforce. Not always. Not perfectly. But often enough that it matters. If you repeatedly accept being rushed, you will be rushed. If you repeatedly reward vague behavior with more access, vagueness will continue. If you repeatedly surrender boundaries to avoid discomfort, people will learn that discomfort is the price through which you can be moved. The world studies what you normalize. That is why self-respect is not just an internal feeling. It is an organizing principle. I know this can sound heavy, especially if you are realizing how many years were spent in roles that drained you. Maybe you were the peacemaker, the fixer, the dependable one, the endlessly understanding one. Maybe you thought maturity meant absorbing more than your share. Maybe you kept calling your exhaustion responsibility. If that is you, I do not want this to land as blame. I want it to land as permission. Permission to stop handing out access where there is no stewardship. Permission to stop converting every discomfort into a case against yourself. Permission to become less available to forces that only thrive when you remain emotionally exposed and spiritually unsure. Section 10. What this looks like in real life. 3 ordinary scenes where control happens quietly. Let me make this even more practical, because sometimes ideas only truly land when we can see them inside a normal Tuesday afternoon instead of a philosophical paragraph. Scene 1. The workplace meeting. You pitch an idea. It gets ignored. 10 minutes later someone else repackages the same thought and the room responds warmly. If you are not grounded, this moment can control your entire week. You replay it in your head, talk about it to 5 people, react with visible frustration in later meetings, start explaining your value too often, or emotionally withdraw in a way others interpret as instability. A more disciplined path would look different. You note the pattern. You regulate before responding. You follow up in writing with clarity. You let your work become documented rather than dramatized. You stop turning a slight into a public bleed. That does not mean you accept disrespect. It means you respond in a way that protects both your dignity and your leverage. Scene 2. The relationship conversation late at night. Something feels off. The other person is distant, unclear, or inconsistent. Your body feels it before your mind can name it. If your old wound is activated, you rush to close the gap. You ask too many questions too fast. You reveal how scared you are. You over-explain your intentions. You offer reassurance before receiving any. The other person, whether consciously or not, now has access to the scale of your fear. The conversation is no longer about mutual clarity. It is about your nervous system trying to regain safety through exposure. A stronger response might be quieter. I can feel something is off. I'm open to discussing it when we can do that clearly. That sentence protects self-respect. It does not beg. It does not chase. It does not convert confusion into self-abandonment. Scene 3. family dynamics. This one is often the hardest because the patterns are old. A relative asks intrusive questions. Another pushes guilt. Another frames your boundaries as disrespect. Suddenly you are not 38, 42, or 45 anymore. You are emotionally back in the version of yourself that had to explain, soften, and negotiate for the right to have a private inner life. That regression is powerful. It can make highly competent adults feel strangely young in seconds. But once you see it, you can begin changing it. You do not need to turn every gathering into a confrontation. Sometimes all that changes is your availability to the game. Less explanation. Less reactive disclosure. Fewer openings for emotional bait. More calm exits. More refusal to play roles that require you to shrink. These scenes matter because control usually does not arrive announced. It arrives through repetition. Through the same few dynamics replayed until they feel normal. Through your own familiar responses becoming predictable pathways. Freedom often begins not in one giant breakthrough, but in noticing one scene earlier than you used to. Catching yourself one sentence sooner. Pausing one breath longer. Declining to hand over one piece of emotional information that has not yet earned daylight. Section 11, the deeper shift, from being read easily to becoming internally legible to yourself. A lot of people spend years trying to become more understandable to others while remaining strangers to themselves. That is a painful way to live. You keep explaining your motives, hoping the world will interpret you correctly, but inside you are still not fully clear on what drives you, what wounds you, what you tolerate, what you fear, and what you actually value when pressure enters the room. In that state, it is almost inevitable that other people will read you before you read yourself. That is the deeper mission here. Not merely to become mysterious or guarded, but to become internally legible. To know your own patterns so well that you can feel the old machinery starting up in real time. You notice when you are about to over-explain. You notice when the need to be liked is trying to override the need to be truthful. You notice when loneliness is about to make poor access feel better than no access. You notice when an authority figure has activated your childhood need for approval. You notice when your body says danger, but the danger is actually memory, not the present moment. That level of self-observation changes the whole game. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to inward examination for this reason. Not endless self-analysis that goes nowhere, but clear inspection. What am I feeling? What judgment is attached to it? What story am I telling? What is in my control right now? What kind of person do I want to be in this moment? These questions sound simple, but lived consistently, they create a human being who is much harder to manipulate. Why? Because manipulation thrives in the gap between your reaction and your awareness of it. The smaller that gap becomes, the less room there is for other people's agendas to take root. There is also a kind of peace in this work that I do not want to leave unsaid. Yes, it protects you socially. Yes, it sharpens your judgment. Yes, it makes you less exposed in a performative world. But it also softens a private kind of suffering, the exhaustion of constantly wondering why certain interactions wreck you more than they should. Once you start reading yourself accurately, life becomes less haunted. Patterns that once felt mysterious start making sense. You stop moralizing every emotional struggle and start understanding its mechanics. That gives you compassion without surrendering responsibility. And maybe that is the most human part of this whole conversation. We are not trying to become untouchable statues. We are trying to become people whose feelings are no longer easy entry points for outside control. People who can remain warm without remaining open to misuse. People who can love without dissolving. People who can participate in the world without handing the world the keys to their nervous system. So let's bring this together. The silent mistakes that let others control you are rarely dramatic at first. They begin when you show your inner weather before you have understood it. When you over-explain because being misread feels unbearable. When you reveal your deepest desires and fears too early. When you assume your values are shared by everyone in the room. When you react at their speed instead of your own. When your identity as a good person becomes easier to manipulate than your principles are to protect. When you let outside voices organize your inner compass. When your pain remains an identity instead of becoming wisdom. And finally, when you try to master strategy without first rebuilding self-respect. If any of this felt uncomfortably personal, that is not failure. That is recognition. Many of these patterns are learned long before adulthood. Many were once useful. Many helped you survive environments where sensitivity, explanation, compliance, or emotional transparency felt necessary. But survival patterns become self-betrayal when they keep running long after the original danger has changed. This is the deeper invitation of Stoicism, not to become cold, not to become suspicious of everyone, but to become governed from within. To stop leaking your center into every room you enter. To stop letting a theatrical society train you into endless exposure. To become calm enough to observe, strong enough to choose, and disciplined enough to speak only from clarity. Because in a world full of performance, there is something quietly radical about a person who cannot be hurried into self-betrayal. About a person who does not hand strangers the blueprint of their hunger. About a person who can feel deeply without becoming publicly disorganized. About a person who notices manipulation without becoming manipulative. That is real power. Not domination. Not cruelty. Not image. Inner command. If this gave language to something you have been feeling for a long time, stay with the channel. Subscribe to StoicCraft and walk deeper with us into the kind of strength that does not need noise to prove itself. And in the comments, I want to ask you something specific. Which silent mistake hit you the hardest, and where in your life have you noticed people respond more to your reactions than to your actual words? Your answer may help someone else see a pattern they have been living inside for years. Until next time, protect your mind, respect your pace, and remember, the world reads what you repeatedly reveal. Reveal with intention.